Welcome. Let's see if I can put it on. Welcome. We got an early one for you. Got an early one. I'm gonna find something to read for the beginning of this. I'll read this. The meaning of your life carries a much larger weight than any small content of chaos someone else hands you. I like that a lot. Sometimes I feel like I amaze myself with just random bits of here and there that I'm like, oh, I wrote that, okay, and fuck it. Anyway, if you've read the title of this, to sort of build your perspective in this world, you need to really not protect, but you need to be aware of what enters your body and your mind. And it's very easy to just consume nonsense. It really is these days because there's so much of the there's so much available to consume that the nonsense can kind of just pull you in and pull you in more and more. Sifting through the nonsense, sifting through all the small pieces of chaos, as I said, is really key. And I would say very hard for a lot of people, if not most people in this world, because I mean, I go outside and I interact with people and I meet people and I'm seeing what they hand me with their minds and their tastes. And I notice that there's not much of it to um, to discover. And what I mean by that is I feel like people are so um, people are very caught up in this notion of like not remaining or not. Let me say that again. People are so caught up in the mindset of remaining mysterious amongst the eye of everyone, the eye of the public. I gotta, it's, and this sort of feeling that kind of derives from that is it's very it's very surface level people where people walk around and they're always thinking about other people looking at them. So they're more or less kind of just thinking about how they look all the time and how they are blending in a way, but also it's not necessarily blending in, it's about them really analyzing their appearance and believing that they're separate, which kind of causes the whole paradox of just remaining mysterious, but also having no nothing inside to withhold from anyone, or nothing inside to give anyone, because they're all sort of just holding this mental image of people viewing them. And I think when you get into that mindset, it's very hard to get out of, because you're usually around people who are sort of enabling that mindset, um, who are enabling the perspective of building an image more than building their lives. And that's that's so odd to me. And there's so many, ways you can go about explaining what I'm talking about, because a lot of people do. There's a lot of different people who talk about these things in a very scientific or magical way, um, or in a very or in a way where it's um, very focused on creating weird certain environments for people and individuals to walk down. And so there there really is no threat for these individuals who are so surface level in their imaginings, and who are constantly thinking of what they're looking like, um, and how they're being perceived. Um, it, in a lot of ways, that is what you want for any sort of government or systematic control, is people who are completely just unable to process anything but themselves. I wrote this last oh, I don't know if it was last night or yesterday, but I wrote, if you can dictate the language, if you can dictate the mental image, you can dictate the epic, the ballad, the war, the great story of the collective will. And going back to the first two lines, if you can dictate the language, if you can dictate the mental image, I mean, as I was just saying and explaining earlier, if you can control the path of thoughts, as well as how you look at those thoughts, you can control the quality and quantity of which that individual is living. And that is the true, like, goal for a lot of different companies and a lot of different, sorry, my cat. But that's the goal for a lot of different, systematic entities seeking power. is language and the mental image. Now, my goal for these are always to just expand our day to day knowing. I mean, it's 2026, June 20th. Um, but this is, I think a big part of why I titled this Tastemakers, as well as a few other things. But talking about tastemakers in general is a tastemaker, in my eyes, is someone who walks amongst all this world, right, and emits their viewpoint, and not necessarily in a very ego dominant, demanding way, but they just present it. They present themselves, and they aren't afraid to present themselves, um, and they show what they're into, and they show their taste, and they put people on, and they tell people their opinions without being attached to any of it, because it's just one man's opinion, one woman's opinion. And in a way, these tastemakers really defy the system, can defy the system. They can really be agents of order, if you will. But in a large way, they sort of defy what is happening. Some of these tastemakers in our history are very different in their way of expression. I've started a book titled, but also just mainly about the expression, human expression. It's so early in the stages of it. I'm working on, if you want to know, I'm working on three different books. Um, One's a scientific or like a sci-fi dystopian novel. That's one I really enjoyed working on that one. It's a work in progress. Will it be a book? Will it be a movie? Will it be anything? That's up for me, right? That's the idea of the tastemaker. Um, and then I'm working on a book and mainly an idea called the unnatural state. Um, and then the expression about human expression in general is the other thing I'm working on. Um, but like that, for instance, when I go and talk to a lot of people, I don't feel like there's people really intensely giving meaning to their lives. And the thing about being an artist or being a creative or being a tastemaker or being I don't even know. There's so many words for it. Excuse me. You don't want to go where you're always understood, where you're accepted. I think that's the real, not problem, but real challenge with our system is we have these holes in the wall and these little niches existing where no one is being challenged in their creative expression. It's all behind closed doors, and people are just existing in their isolated point of view, screaming or doing whatever, and peace. And there's no real creative challenge anymore. It's not that there needs to be a competition amongst creatives, but I think there needs to be more of a more of an ability to just to be challenged by others and their opinions and their eyes, and to be challenged by being uncomfortable or being challenged in a way where you are directly impacted in creating. And I think the weird sort of way we have creative people being used nowadays is to sort of force people into these creative boxes where when you create on on a more individual personal level, it ends up being your intention that carries it, your integrity with your relationship, your creative processes. But when you can't just create and you have to think about surviving and making a profit just to get to tomorrow or just to get to Friday or just to get to the next, week or the your next paycheck, you force yourself into these creative holes where money and status in a way, big status in a big way, is holding you up in making your creative acts justifiable to the system. True creativity should not be a formulated thing that you're expecting, in my opinion. I find that a lot of the shows I've been to or that I've gone to, I find that it's so formulated. I don't feel like I've ever gone to a show and just witnessed a grand experimentation or a grand experience. I've been to good shows and whatnot, but to me, the art is almost, it's not last, but it's not first in the dominating factors of kind of the field of play, the field of vision. I find that most people do not give a shit unless they're kind of drunk or something, or they don't give a shit unless they told people about going, um, or recorded that they were there. I I also find, how do I say it? I also find that there's more dominant factors of play and at play at these places. Screens, money, drugs. I try to, I bring this up for a few different reasons. I hope you like the slower, more uh, less formulated uh, concepts of these lives where I'm really just taking my time getting through my mind. But these dominant sort of factors that are kind of dominating the field of vision around and in these creative spaces, they, for me, and I don't know about a lot of people, but for me, it really takes away from the the world building aspect of creation, because I think in a very dramatic way we have to look at what creation is, as in a very dramatic way. You have like, in order to create something, you are removing yourself from your world and isolating your perspective on this thing you're putting energy into, and therefore giving it energy and life and a purpose and a reason and meaning. And that in itself builds worlds, because language in itself is what holds the world together. Now, to go a little off the rails, you could say that we don't all understand language, right? Or we all don't speak the same language. So how can that be? And that's because, I mean, this is my personal theory, but I think we've coded, um, due to our technologically advanced society, it's projected um, it's projected onto us that we've reached some sort of status due to technology being, at our will. To me, technology really just kind of puts a stamp, puts an end to the imaginative, mysterious side of our predicament. Um, while it also advances it, but it it's a very paradoxical thing, because it's you know I wrote this yesterday. Hold the current. What is the technology holding? What is it? What is the current or intention it's holding? Who's holding it? How is it being willed or acted upon or acted through? Um, and I think that what you'll come to find with this is that it's the intention of these tools, the intention of these sorts of um, electronic screens. They're holding a current that is not, that is so powerful in the dictating the language and the mental image, therefore creating the unnatural state. Um, I wonder, on a more local level, because I think that's another big thing that kind of is causing our disruption in our lives, and this very deeply and this very deep problem I see and I'm trying to talk about is that, on a more local level, I think people are losing their identity and power amongst their community, amongst their scene. And this is just my opinion, but I think the dominating scenes or communities in these creative worlds are so tainted with, you know, dogma and propaganda and liberal and Republican um, agendas. I think it ends up being a very liberal sort of world. You do not need to be up here. Do not walk on the keyboard. You can get down. Get down. Don't walk on the keyboard. He's a playful cat, but I never try. I hate getting into the left and right politics, but it's such a dominant factor of our unnatural state that you can't help but avoid, not talk about it. Um, I think a lot of these. Can you stop? You haven't. You don't want to. You just want to play. It's okay, but we'll play later. um, what I notice with these liberal sort of perspectives, because that is the main perspective that is taking over. Um, these liberal democratic views, where it's a lot of pseudo sort of beliefs, neo beliefs, like people who are just observers of beliefs and ideologies, and it really. Hold on. Are you about to throw up? Don't throw up. I don't know what you're on, but it. Come on, let's go. Come on, let's go. Go get some water downstairs. Come on, come on, come on. Go get some water. Cats will be cats. But yeah, I'm not one to get into the left and right politics. I don't like it, but you have to you got to deal with what you got to deal with, because that is the case. Although Terence McKenna says something I love is you must try to create new ideas, because if you're constantly fighting against the bad ideas, then your oppressors control the game. I love that. I love that. Or you said something along the lines of that. But what I notice with these windows into creativity now is that there comes first an ideological an ideological doorway you have to enter in order to get accepted into certain social groups. Um, it's rather interesting. It's rather weird because I don't think a lot of people are fully conscious of it. I think what a lot of liberals end up thinking or a lot of what a lot of people in general think but this liberal sort of ideology that has tainted the creative world. Um, it's like we have in our history the downloaded information of, let's just say, World War I and all those problems that came along with it. Same with World War II. Now we have at the same time something along the lines of the '60s and the counter revolution and all these things about the hippies and whatnot. And what I'm getting at is right and now, like the 2026, after everything we've been through and now in the present moment, is we have these certain historical things that should be known amongst our communities and to be accepted behaviorally due to it being downloaded into our history before, and it should just be known amongst the people, the participants who are there, that you should behave in this way because it's already happened. So I think a lot of people end up talking about the hippies, for instance, because the '60s are the craziest time in my opinion. Just the amount of loopholes and holes you can go into to just sort of branch it all together is crazy. But a lot of people love the hippies. They had it figured out, and they still carry that hippie mindset to this day. So personally, I hate when I get called a hippie. I've been called a hippie too many times, and I just don't like that word. I don't feel like a hippie. I don't want to be a hippie, but I get called it. But anyway, this hippie mindset that I think a lot of people are like have internally downloaded is that like, oh, it's free love and we should all love each other and whatnot, and you're getting that sort of feeling when you're at a fucking metal show and they're screaming about blood and demons and whatever. And we're supposed to be so friendly amongst each other and love. And you get that for every genre, but a lot of the what's dominant in fact around me is like a lot of heavier music. But it's but it ends up being tainted with that um, the ideological gateway before you can enter it, the creative world. So I think a lot of people are, long story short, I think a lot of people are creating and not, or they're thinking before they're creating, and they're trying to like fit into a formula before they even have figured out how to fucking play their song. Um, it's weird because you would a lot of people have argued that experimentation is so vast nowadays, and I think we can all agree that it is, but it's just because, in my opinion, that it's just because like we can access certain images and certain communities via electronics. Because if you truly go around what's happening in your local level, there's something happening. It's usually a certain cultural movement that's happening. It's not like multiple scenes or multiple creative acts. It's usually just like a scene within a scene that's just doing one thing. And there's communities within communities that are just doing one thing. Um, but I think if we really try to get past this ideological prison, this monetary financial gain um, that creates egotistical assholes on power trips. Um, I think we really try to get past that. We should really dive into the imagination of creation, breaking boundaries, going places and creating where it doesn't make sense, waking people out of the world is crucial. I think making people stop and not think, but look at something and to see like this act of just like expression that is just so out of the ordinary, so out of place. It's time we take back over our language and our mental image. I don't know if this is my theory, but it's something I like thinking about. But I've wrote a few times talking about the many worlds and how they exist within this world, and how you can just open doors and walk into people's lives and create completely new worlds. But the key is finding those people who are holding your intention, holding your current of energy that can meet you in the same way you can meet them in a selfless creative act of world building. It's hard. It's very hard. I think a lot of people are so programmed into formulating into an already like set in stone way that you need individuals who are tastemakers in a way, where they're just able to break boundaries and not give a fuck about where they are playing, what they're sounding like. People who can hold themselves internally while the world around them is just ever changing, shifting. I think I'm gonna end it there. Peace. Don't die. Not yet. And hope you're enjoying these whenever you're watching.